Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, and all the previous acharyas, and to all the assembled devotees. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripasindhubhyaeva patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Last night we had a mantra zone program, and too many people came. There's a electric current going through the Bay Area, caused by the devotees here. It's all your fault, because you're running around, knocking on doors, going to businesses, talking to people. And I met a very nice person last night who said 3 years ago she got 3 books. Does that sound familiar? Any forensics there you can do? She read them all, and she realized, I can't do this alone, and then she remembered there's a bookmark inside, and she looked it up and came a month ago to the Bhakti community and is very enthusiastically engaged in practicing devotional service. Many other people last night expressed their desire to get involved in a community that's propagating pure devotional service, and they came there very deliberately. The purpose for which they bought that house in the first place seemed to have been fulfilled last night because it was packed. And Bhavani Bhakti, before the storm came and people came in, said, well, he's hoping to get all these people. Where are they? And next thing you know, the door kept opening and more people came in. It's a harbinger for what's to come here in the Bay Area, because you can't plant seed without expecting that things are going to sprout. And the more that we prepare ourselves to be examples for others, and that will take the time to engage them, then the more Krishna will help us realize our dream of making the Bay Area a shining example of how one might bring Krishna consciousness to the fore. We find also that many people in the scientific realm are beginning to talk more about the difference between matter and consciousness and make a distinction. It's no longer taboo. You no longer get kicked out of the academy for talking about that. And the influence of the transcendental vibration and book distribution will continue to have this effect. So it's a worthwhile cause to give one's attention to propagating Krishna consciousness as thoroughly as possible. And that gives one a great mission in life. All other activities are supportive of that. And the more we propagate, the more Krishna will shower His blessings on us individually and collectively. Even if all you can do is somehow or other take a little kitri, some achar, maybe a papadam, definitely lime, to stay alive and hear the Bhagavatam, that's all you can do, you'll still win gloriously. And if we end up with a championship team, then you still get a ring, even if you never get off the bench. Just do what you can. I also like to appreciate the outstanding team at UC Santa Cruz. So organized, so sincere, and so capable. I went to a program there one of these nights. I can't remember which one it was. Wednesday? Tuesday night? And they're so organized. They have their shirts on with all logos, everything perfectly organized, and a room full of sincere people. Again, students who are looking for association with those who are sense-controlled, high-minded, and have a spiritual purpose in life. And boy, did they find them in these devotees who are doing the Bhakti Yoga Club, BYC. So congratulations to all of you at Santa Cruz. It's a little university in a forest somewhere with a big library, and people going to the library looking for something nice, and I doubt if they'll find it unless they run into the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's mostly an ocean of babble and unfulfilling. Luckily, we have the opportunity to be mainstream in the process of Bhakti Yoga, because we've been given the direct process for contacting Krishna. As Prahlāda Mahārāj said to his father, when his father asked him, "How's school, son?" "Fine. What did you learn today?" "Shravanam kirtanam vishnu smaranam pada sevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atmani vedanam iti pum sarpita vishnu bhaktischen nabalakshana kriyeta bhagavatyada tanmanye ditam uttamam. He said, I think that anyone who has dedicated a life to Krishna through these 9 processes of devotional service is the most intelligent, because he or she has come to the perfection of knowledge. And that is hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet, offering prayers, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, remembering the Lord, Vandanam, Dasyam, worshipping the Lord, Sakyam, considering the Lord one's best friend, Atma Nivedanam, giving everything to the Lord. And through these 9 processes, one can be directly in contact with Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu painstakingly instructed his main disciples, who were Rūpa Goswāmī and Sanatana Goswāmī, and told them all about the process, how to practice it. He asked them also to enumerate the process further. Sanatana Goswāmī was to write the Hari Bhakti Vilas, to tell all the details of how to practice these 64 limbs, specific items of worshiping Krishna, and that all fall under the 9 that I mentioned. One of them you might delight in knowing is ringing the bell. Did anybody ring the bell this morning? Well, you only have 65 more limbs to go, which you've done handily here this morning. But the main ones, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pointed out to Sanatana Goswāmī, were chanting the holy name, associating with devotees, living in a holy place, worshiping the deity, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, the association of devotees, makes it focused and simple. And so today, we're going to read something from the Bhagavatam, from the 10th canto. And the 10th canto is specifically a result of process of revealment that's taken place in our disciplic succession. There's a conversation you'll find in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 5th chapter. Srila Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of Krishna. So important are the teachings and the literature in our sampradaya that Krishna manifests himself in a specific form just to compile and make available the teachings of the Vedas, especially in ways that people can understand in various ages, especially Kali Yuga, when people are busy and they only scroll. How would he make it available? He endeavored to do that, but his spiritual master gave him some extra instruction, which was that be more specific about Krishna and his pastimes, because those topics have the potency to lift the listener above the three modes of material nature, but not only that, to also endear one to Krishna, but not only that, but also to awaken the dormant love that each soul has for Krishna. And how would one do that unless one was able to hear specifically about the Supreme Personality of Godhead? You can't love the air. We don't have a relationship with the water. We may as swimmers or surfers or something like that, but it's not personal. Whereas with a person, we can have a loving exchange. But what to speak of with the Supreme Person, whose specific purpose in life is to have loving exchanges with us. And in the process of instructing his disciple, Vyasadeva, Narada Muni said to him that be as specific as possible, because all the other topics that people are engaged in this world will disturb their minds. Like a boat on water that has no resting place. They'll be blown from here to there. And then Srila Vyasadeva, with sincere due diligence, had concentrated his mind fully on Krishna and had seen that the living entities in the material world are unnecessarily suffering because of being distracted by Maya. And he also saw that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present with all his potencies. And in his Bhakti Sandarbha, his Bhagavat Sandarbha, Jiva Goswāmī begins by describing how the Supreme Personality of Godhead means the one who has unlimited potencies. Parasya Saktir Vivadaiva Shuyate Swabhavika Jnana Balakriya Cha. What's more, through those potencies, he extends himself to all of us. His internal potency can be realized through the process of devotional service. Anarto pasanam sakshat bhakti yogam adhoksaje lokasya janato vidvans chakre satvita samhitam. How? He said that, Shukadeva says, that people are ignorant until they can come in contact with the Srimad Bhagavatam. As it's the ultimate realization of Srila Vyasadeva, bestowed upon him by the mercy of his spiritual master, Narada Muni, and it's in a form in which we can digest. We can hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also mentioned in the first canto, third chapter. Krishna swadamo pagate dharma ganadi bisaha kalo nashya drishamesha puranarko danodita. Just after Krishna left, and his purpose was to give mercy to everybody by revealing himself, then what would they do? They meaning everyone, all of us, would take advantage of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because it arose as the incarnation of Krishna just after Krishna personally left for his own abode. And those who want to derive the benefits of Srimad Bhagavatam will hear and chant together in association. So that's our legacy. And here, I'm going to read to you some of the pastimes of Krishna from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And all you need do is open your ears and your heart. This is from chapter 15, the killing of Dhenukasura, the ass demon. Means donkey. This chapter describes how Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna, while tending their cows in the pastures chapter 10:15. In the pastures of Vrindavan, killed Dhenukasura. Killed who? Enabled the residents of Vrindavan to eat the fruits of the tall trees and saved the young cowherds from Kaliya's poison. There's a lot going on here, and even in the first sentence. Revealing their boyhood, Pauganda, phase of pastimes, Rama and Krishna were one day bringing the cows to pasture when they entered an attractive forest decorated with a clear lake. There they began playing forest sports along with their friends. Pretending to tire, Lord Baladev laid his head upon the lap of a cowherd boy and rested as Lord Krishna helped relieve his elder brother's fatigue by massaging his feet. Then Krishna also placed his head upon the lap of a cowherd boy to rest, and another cowherd boy massaged his feet. In this way, Krishna, Balaram, and their cowherd friends enjoyed various pastimes. During this play, Sri Dama, Subala, Stoka Krishna, and other cowherd boys described to Rama and Krishna a wicked and irrepressible demon named Dhenurka, who had assumed the form of a jackass and was living in the Talavan forest near Govardhan Hill. This forest was full of many varieties of sweet fruits, but fearing this demon, no one dared try to relish the taste of those fruits, and thus someone had to kill the demon and all his associates. Lord Rama and Lord Krishna, hearing of the situation, set off for this forest to fulfill the desire of their companions. Arriving at the Talavan, Lord Balaram shook many fruits out of the palm trees, and as soon as he did so, the jackass demon Dhenurka ran swiftly to attack him. But Balaram grabbed his hind legs with one hand, whirled him around, and threw him into the top of a tree, thus slaying him. All of Dhenukasura's friends, overcome by fury, then rushed to attack, but Rama and Krishna took hold of them one by one, swung them around, and killed them until the disturbance was finally finished. When Krishna and Balaram returned to the cowherd community, Yashoda and Rohini placed them on their respective laps. They kissed their faces, fed them with finely prepared food, and then put them to bed. Some days later, Lord Krishna went with his friends, but without his older brother, to the banks of the Kalindi in order to tend the cows. The cows and the cowherd boys became very thirsty and drank some water from the Kalindi, but it had been contaminated with poison, and they all fell unconscious on the riverbank. Krishna then brought them back to life by the merciful rain of his glance, and all of them, regaining their consciousness, appreciated his great mercy. Text number 1. Shukadev Goswāmī said, when Lord Rama and Lord Krishna attained the age of Pauganda, 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Lord Krishna wanted to encourage his cowherd friends who had been swallowed by Aghasura and then stolen by Lord Brahma. Therefore, the Lord decided to bring them into the palm tree forest called Talavan, where there were many delicious ripe fruits. Since Lord Krishna's spiritual body had apparently grown slightly in age and strength, the senior men of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, decided to promote Krishna from the task of herding calves to the status of a regular cowherd boy. He would now take care of the full-grown cows, bulls, and oxen. Out of affection, Nanda Maharaj had previously considered Krishna too small and immature to take care of full-grown cows and bulls. It is stated in the Kartik Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana, Shuklashtami kartite tu smrita gopashtami budai tad janad vasudevo bhud gopapurvam tu vatsapaha. The 8th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartik is known by authorities as Gopashtami. From that day, Lord Vasudeva served as a cowherd. whereas previously he had tended the calves. The word padai indicates that Lord Krishna blessed the earth by walking on her surface with his lotus feet. The Lord wore no shoes or other footgear, but walked barefoot in the forest, giving great anxiety to the girls of Vrindavan who feared that his soft lotus feet would be injured. And now I'll request a verse from Queen Kunti's prayers that would be appropriate for this particular verse. Work with me, people. Yes. Akshara Nitai. He's got it.
Specifically, also referring to this last purport's paragraph, Namo Pankaja Nabhaya, Namo Pankaja Malin, Namo Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. So Lord Krishna's lotus feet was compared to a lotus flower. So, all right.
Okay, but if you know more, please say more.
Neyam shobishyatetra yathe danim gadadara tvatpadaya ankita bhati swalakshana vilakshitaihi.
Well done. Can you give us a little bit of the meaning, please?
Neyam shobishyatetra. Nothing will flourish here. Neyam shobishyatetra yate. Neyam shobishyatetra yathe danim gadadara. Everything in this kingdom is flourishing because of your lotus feet.
And the second part?
This kingdom is marked with the beautiful marks of your lotus feet.
Well done. Hare Krishna. Okay, let's look at the verse. Number is 1839, please. This is important for many reasons, as Akshara Nitai pointed out. And we're getting this other beautiful verse that Krishna is a person. He has form. Okay. Neham sobishite tatra yate danim gadadhara tvatpadar ankitabhati swalakshana vilakshitai. Word for word. Na, not. Iyam, this land of our kingdom. Shobishyate, will appear beautiful. Tatra, then. Yata, as it is now. Idanim, now. Gadadhara. No, Gadadhara, sorry. O Krishna, tvat, your padai, by the feet. Ankita, marked. Bhati, is dazzling. So lakshana, your own marks. Vilakshitai, by the impressions. Translation. O Gadadhara, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so. Purport. There are certain particular marks on the feet of the Lord which distinguish the Lord from others. The marks of a flag, thunderbolt, an instrument to drive an elephant, umbrella, lotus disc, etc. are on the bottom of the Lord's feet. These marks are impressed upon the soft dust of the land where the Lord traverses. The land of Hastinapur was thus marked while Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna, was there with the Pandavas. And the kingdom of the Pandavas thus flourished by such auspicious signs. Kunti Devi pointed out these distinguished features and was afraid of ill luck in the absence of the Lord. This is very personal, isn't it? To hear about the Lord's form and how distinct his footprints are, and the overall realization that only when Krishna is present in the kingdom, in our lives, is there auspiciousness. Otherwise, the darkness rushes in immediately. We can meditate upon Krishna because he has form. And in the Bhagavad, we find mention elsewhere of these markings on Krishna's lotus feet. You'll find it also in the story of Kaliya, because it's mentioned there that in the rush to see why there were bad omens one day, the devotees, Nanda, Yashoda, everyone who are celebrating Balaram's birthday, Titi, had stayed back, and Krishna had gone with his boyfriends, and then of course heroically jumped into the lake at Kaliyagat, it's called now, to challenge the snake who had, even by his breathing, killed birds flying over, to speak of anyone who drank from the water. Because of his enviousness, he was emitting horrible poison. Krishna, as a little boy, got up on a kadamba tree, tightened his belt, and then flapped his arms like a wrestler. And then he jumped into the lake. Now it's not a proper lake, but it's a lake off of the Jamuna. Sometimes there's a large collection of water. Of course, in the descriptions of this lake, it's much bigger than it is now. It was many miles long and wide, but still it was connected to Jamuna. And when Krishna jumped in, he began to splash about. And this angered Kaliya, because those who are envious always feel that people are encroaching upon their property. And he had claimed that as his own place. And Krishna very deliberately disturbed his mind by splashing about. Kaliya had subsequently grabbed Krishna in his coils. He was a fearsome-looking creature with hoods like a snake, and he had big claws by which he grabbed the little child Krishna, who was sporting, and then he held him aloft, keeping him in his grasp. And Krishna allowed for this because he was performing on a stage. He was bringing all the residents of Vrindavan together to despair for him in the clutches of this horrible-looking snake, not knowing, of course, that he's all-powerful personality of Godhead. They just love him as their friend, their lover, or their son. And many of the cowherd men rushed to go in the water and try to save Krishna. But Balaram had to hold them back. He had arrived also with others. And the question comes up because there's a way in which they found where Krishna was by following his footprints. But then, because there are millions of cows and people walking up and down the paths of Vrindavan each day, and especially on this day when there was a throng going to the Kaliya lake, how would Krishna's footprints be visible? And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur answers by saying that all of the cows and all of the residents of Vrindavan were ever aware of Krishna's footprints on the pathways, and therefore, even as the herds of cows came, and even as the throngs of people came, they avoided stepping on those footprints. They were always preserved and visible, as they worshipped those footprints. And there it's described how there are various markings on Krishna's lotus feet that show up when he impresses his lotus feet on the ground. One of those is the thunderbolt. Elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, in describing how yogis meditate, Shukadeva explains how they meditate, some of them, on the thunderbolt that's on Krishna's lotus foot. And do you know what that does when you meditate on the thunderbolt that's on Krishna's lotus foot? It smashes mountains of sin. And this is indicative of the fact that by cohorting with the material world, we accumulate inauspicious thoughts, impressions in our hearts. And they pile up so high, they're like a gigantic mountain. If you look at the Himalayas, if you've ever seen them, how'd you do that? If you're in Delhi, you couldn't see them. In fact, even if you're near, you can't see them. There was a movie about how the day the world stopped, is that what it was called? Changed. And there was a family that lived near the Himalayas, and there was in the family, man's son, man of the house's son, was a photographer. And they lived adjacent to the Himalayas, but they had never seen them until the pandemic started, because all the pollution then stopped. And he was taking pictures, and he said it was the first time he ever saw them. But if you fly over, you can see them. And several times when flying in that part of India, I've heard the pilots say, there are the Himalayas. And I was truly in awe. I couldn't stop looking out the window. And it went on and on and on for 10 minutes and 20 minutes, 30 minutes, still going, still going, still going. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, of immovable things I am the Himalayas. And that's what accumulates after unlimited lifetimes in the material world, association with the modes of material nature. But those mountains of inauspicious, sinful reactions, I wonder what that looks like exactly. Something like the Himalayas, accumulated in the heart of a conditioned soul, insurpassable. But if you meditate on Krishna's lotus feet, specifically the thunderbolt on his lotus foot, Bhagavatam says it smashes those mountains so they are pulverized. And this is the only technique recommended by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhava Madbhakto. Just think of me, remember me. And to remember somebody, there have to be specifics. There's Nam, Gun, Rūpa, and Lila. So the name is non-different from the named. Spiritual science. And therefore, if someone says the name of Krishna again and again, he has direct access to Krishna. And we know from 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that if someone cries out the name of Krishna, then those sinful reactions are smashed. It happened for John Mill, and there's every indication that anyone who says Krishna, even if they do it accidentally, as Shukadev says in that chapter, that some people say the holy name because of designating something else. The devotees in India, remind me which town we were in, but they were complaining because somebody started an enterprise and they call it Krishna wine. That's not Gurugram. In Gurugram, there's a chain of stores called Krishna Wine, W-I-N-E. And I heard that the devotees had challenged them and said, you can't call it that. But even if they don't win the challenge, still Bhagavatam says, you designated your shop, wine or whatever else it is, with the holy name, so the name there is Krishna. Prabhupada said that Rasoham apsukonteya prabhasmi shashishuryo pranavak sarvavedeshu shabdake purushamnishu. In this verse, which he quoted and commentated upon during the Guru Purnima one year, he talked about how if you just remember Krishna when you drink water, then you'll attain perfection. Because you remember, this is the taste of water, and the devotee, he says, becomes grateful to Krishna that you've provided such a nice thing to quench our thirst. But then Prabhupada extended and he said, even if a drunkard, a person who's addicted to wine, thinks this taste is Krishna, that person will also attain perfection by remembering Krishna, because Krishna's name and the remembrance of his name and his form, pastimes, Leela, is so effective that it will smash one's tendency to try to enjoy the material world. So when the devotees were telling me that they were so upset about this, I thought, well, we can't be that upset. Because the name Krishna is there. Would you have rather they omitted the name, just called it the wine shop? Maybe it's better that it's Krishna wine. Because when people get their wine, then they'll be thinking, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. What to speak of somebody who is hearing about Krishna, not just the Leela, but also about how it is that Krishna appears as a person and that he has an eternal form. Such a person would be greatly benefited. So here we find that the word padai indicates that Lord Krishna blessed the earth by walking on her surface with his lotus feet. And this is also indicated in the Bhagavatam, anugrahaya bhaktanam manusham dehamasrita, that he comes specifically as a person to show his personhood in this world so that people can remember him and remember his activities and so forth. So the next verse, if you'll allow me, in the chapter 15 says, thus desiring to enjoy pastimes, Lord Madhava sounded his flute, surrounded by cowherd boys who were chanting his glories, and accompanied by Lord Baladev, kept the cows before him and entered the Vrindavan forest, which is full of flowers and rich with nourishment for the animals. Shall I read the purport? Yes. You'd like to hear it? Srila Sanatana Goswāmī has explained the various meanings of the word Madhava as follows. Madhava normally indicates Krishna to be the Lord who is the consort of the goddess of fortune Lakshmi. This name also implies that Lord Krishna descended in the dynasty of Madhu. Since the spring season is also known as Madhava, it is understood that as soon as Lord Krishna entered the Vrindavan forest, it automatically exhibited all the opulences of spring, becoming filled with flowers, breezes, and a celestial atmosphere. Another reason Lord Krishna is known as Madhava is that he enjoys his pastimes in Madhu, the taste of conjugal love. Lord Krishna would loudly sound his flute as he entered the forest of Sri Vrindavan, thus giving inconceivable bliss to all the residents of his hometown, Vrajdam. These simple pastimes of playfully entering the forest, playing on the flute, and so forth, were performed daily in the spiritual land of Vrindavan. Last night, when we went to the mantra zone, we entered the mantra zone last night. We went into the home of the mantra zone, and there's a secret room in the back. It's got Gaur-Nitai, or I should say Gaur-Nitai lived there in the room. So when we walked into the home, which is already transcendental because it's there for one purpose, which is to give people an environment in which they can experience Krishna directly for themselves in the association of devotees. We snuck into that room, the sanctum sanctorium of the house. And there in the background we could hear the chanting. Prabhupada was chanting. But then Gaur-Nitai were there on the altar, their arms raised, dancing. And they were adorned with beautiful necklaces, flowers. And if one looks into that altar, one enters directly into the spiritual world. As Krishna is personally present there. And Krishna wants to avail himself to his devotees. Lord Chaitanya had a devotee named Girirāj Pandit. And if you go to visit Ambika Kalna, which is people tell you it's about a 3-hour drive from Mayapur, but don't believe them. It's more like 5. You can visit the deities of Girirāj Pandit. They remind me of the deities that live in the home of the mantra zone. They don't keep the doors open very long there because they're afraid that the deities, when they see their devotees coming to visit them, will walk off the altar and follow them home, and then they'll lose their association there in the temple. So they only open for a minute and then they close it again. Girirāj Pandit was contemporary with Nitai and Gora, who were very much attached to their devotees. That's Krishna's mood, that he's attached to his devotees, so much so that he's conquered by their love. In fact, there's an oar there at the house of Girirāj Pandit. And it's indicative of the time that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to great trouble to come across the Ganga on a rowboat just to see his devotees. They saved that oar. It's in the little museum next to Girirāj Pandit's house. And Girirāj was so afraid of being separated from Nitai and Gaur that when they tried to leave, he'd prevent them from leaving. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had deities made for Girirāj, because the deity form of the Lord, as Krishna mentions in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is non-different from the Lord. In fact, in some ways, the Archa form is known to be supremely merciful, because all the avatars of the Lord enter into the Archa form of Krishna, or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tirtaspadam Shiva Virinchi Nutam Sharanyam Vrityartiham Brandadapala Pabhabipotam. Said if you bow down to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his deity form, you get the result of going to all the holy places. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rightly made deities that are rightly according to Shastra, so that Girirāj Pandit, his devotee, wouldn't feel separation from him. And he established those deities in the house of Girirāj Pandit. But when Nitai and Gaur, after establishing the deities, started to leave, Girirāj chased after him, and he jumped at their lotus feet and grabbed their lotus feet and wouldn't let them go. And Mahaprabhu said, no, but the deities are here. He said, no, I want you. And so that he said, okay, we'll stay, the deities will go. So the deities started to leave, and Girirāj Pandit chased after them and grabbed their lotus feet and said, no, please don't go. And he said, okay, we'll stay, they'll go. And in this way, back and forth, until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally convinced him to worship those deities. And they're still being worshipped by the descendants of Girirāj Pandit. In fact, there's a tamarind tree there that is... Tamarind trees live a long time. You know, in Vrindavan, the tamarind tree that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sit on, the remnants of it's still there, and there's a descendant of that tree that's grown up, but still it was alive even into the 80s and 90s, from hundreds of years ago. And there in Mayapur and Albika Kalna, there's a very large tamarind tree that's said to have been there since the time of Lord Chaitanya, and under which Nitai and Chaitanya performed Sankirtan and danced. The descendants of those trees are at our house in Burlingame, California. If anybody ever wants to come by, stop on by. We're open 24 hours, just not in a row. And those trees come from a tamarind pod that I received when I went there with His Grace Jananivas Prabhu and our old friend, our old pal, Rajendra Nandana Prabhu, who passed away a couple of years ago. I hope it was a couple of years and not like 10. Otherwise, we're in big trouble. And the tamarind trees have many pods. They're flat-like, but they have goo inside. That's the tamarind. They also have 2 seeds inside. 1 pod, 2 seeds. 1 pod, how many seeds? 2. So Jananivas picked one up and he handed it to me. He said, eat that. And I said, okay. He touched it, it's prasad. He told me to eat it. I cracked it open. I, in my mind, offered it to the Lord. And I ate that tamarind with great pleasure. But what ended up also in my mouth were 2 seeds. So I thought, well, seeds are potential. Anything can happen with a seed. I should keep these. So I went to the pump, and I pumped nice gush of clear water, and I washed my hands and mouth, and I also washed the seeds. Then I put them in my pocket without much more thought about it. It wasn't highly calculated. It was just a passing thought that seeds are potential. If I keep them, anything could happen. And who has time to grow trees from seeds? Well, not me, unless there's a pandemic. Then I got time for anything. And during that pandemic, it became a very creative time to think about how to grow many different types of things. And one of the things that came to my mind was that, oh, you have these 2 seeds. And I thought, no, they'll never grow. But I thought, well, let me try. So I read up online how to germinate tamarind seeds, which is a thing, can be done. So I followed the directions, which meant you had to soak them in water. And I put them in a jar with clear water, and I let them sit for some time, and then I put them each in a pot, its own individual pot. And weeks went by, and I thought, oh well, just as I thought, no hope. I tried anyway. But one day, when I was collecting some Tulsi manjaris for our deity worship, I did a double take when I looked at one of the pots and I saw something coming up. And I thought, oh, that could be an anomaly in the dirt or some other creature. But when I looked closer, I saw there was a very large sprout. You know, sprouts that we generally see around in salads, for instance, are tiny. But this was a huge sprout. And when I saw the sprout came up, I actually started dancing for joy inside the greenhouse. I ran to get my wife and said, you got to come down here as soon as possible. And then she started dancing. And as we realized, the sprout had come up because we did our due diligence, and it was growing, and it had a connection to Lord Chaitanya, and it was a tree, and it was alive, and Jananivas had given it to me. And I thought, okay, well, 50%, that's not bad, because the other one didn't come up. But then it did. And then we started dancing again, and those 2 trees now have grown into rather robust saplings, or about more than saplings. I want to give one to the Bhakti Farms so that it can grow into a gigantic tree, because I don't have room for a gigantic tree, but Bhakti Farms does, and it would be nice to plant it there somewhere appropriate and let it grow. And it can be the descendant of, it is the descendant of the tree that Lord Chaitanya danced under, and it came from the seed that Jananivas Prabhu gave to me, that was in the pump, and then it grew. And then we think oftentimes when we see those 2 trees about the miracle of devotional service, that if somehow or other someone just hands you a book or deliberately chants the holy name for you, or induces you to chant the holy name, or smaranta smarayantascha, remembers Kṛṣṇa and causes you to remember Kṛṣṇa, it plants a seed in the heart. And many people think, well, that can't happen. It'll never grow. But it does. The effect is there. We just have to follow the process. Vidanataha means find out how to germinate the seed. You have to water it. You have to care for it. And then when it sprouts and grows, then we have Krishna in our lives and we become connected to Krishna. So the other point in this purport is about Krishna's flute. And it's one of the distinguishing qualities of Krishna because Narayan has qualities that almost equal Krishna's, but Krishna has 4 qualities that even Narayan doesn't have. And sometimes people say, well, why isn't it that Krishna comes from Narayan? It says so in my dictionary, so it must be true. Or it says in our sect of Vaishnavism, Narayan is the supreme and Krishna is an emanation from Narayan. So why do you guys always chant Hare Krishna? And by the way, it's Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, etc., etc. So Rūpa Goswāmī explains that we understand the hierarchy of the Lord's manifestations in terms of his qualities. And one of his qualities is that he plays a flute. Now think about that. He's a musician. And once when somebody asked Prabhupada why Krishna, God, plays a flute, Girirāj Mahārāj told us, Prabhupada said, it means that he's all play and no work. In the 1960s, way before you guys were born, here in the Bay Area, you could have a sighting of a certain kind of creature called a hippie. And lots of hippies played flutes. And they also had bare feet, just like Krishna has bare feet. And they had long hair, just like Krishna has long hair. And they played their flute, and they'd sit on the sidewalk. And they had an idea also that they would be all play and no work. But it didn't work out, because then the 70s came, and then the 80s, and everything was finished. Because everyone went back to business school and forgot about being hippies. And they had to work hard, and most of them died early. So, utopia, or the land of eternal happiness, is there in this association with Krishna. And it comes down through sound. When Krishna plays his flute, and Brahma, the first living being in the universe, hears it, then he realizes the absolute truth through the flute sound. That same sound can be transferred from one devotee to the next. And Prabhupada gives a statement which we should not overlook in his purport to a verse in the Madhya Lila, in which he says that same flute sound that Brahma heard at the beginning of creation, which endowed upon him enlightenment, is fully present now in the form of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna. So we should listen for that sound. Our purpose in life is to organize in such a way that we can hear the sound of the spiritual world. And it comes to us in the Maha Mantra. And if we make sure that Krishna is present in our consciousness, present in our house, and present all over Silicon Valley, we should think of ways to help the people of Silicon Valley, who are the greatest people in the world, to give them an opportunity to just know about Krishna, hear about Krishna, be in contact with Krishna. We can transform the environment in Silicon Valley to one where people don't walk to work, they dance. In fact, why even work? They're probably just engaged in devotional service. Or if they have to go to work, it'll be centered around Krishna. Or very practically, people could become Krishna conscious by hearing the holy names, receiving transcendental literature, being invited to festivals where they can be with devotees and dance in ecstasy. And so we should cordon off the area, figure out what the boundary of this place is, and then make sure that every single person has an opportunity to come in contact with Krishna's name, his form, what else you want? Qualities, pastimes. And then when all the people within that cordoned off area become Krishna conscious, it'll overflow the banks and it'll start running out into various other places, like what's outside of Silicon Valley? Livermore? I've always wanted to inundate Livermore. We have the beginnings, it's already starting to flow there. It already has flowed there. And then where else do you want it to go? Where? Chico. It'll flood Chico. And then I'd like it to go to Walnut Creek. Where else? Fresno. I think we're going north. It's flooding north, flooding south, flooding east. And Monterey. Modesto. This is Lord Chaitanya's vision. He began a flood, and he wanted to see it drown everybody in love of God. And so what better occupation is there than to organize our lives in such a way that we feel that flood in our heart. We plant the seed, we water it, we let it grow, and then we distribute the fruits. And as far as the flood goes, that emotion that we get from being in contact with Krishna, we can concentrate that into enthusiasm to organize in such a way that everyone has an opportunity to come in contact with the transcendental vibration of the holy name. Now we'll take a few reflections or questions. Yes, Devavrata. He beat you to the punch. Now these microphones, before using them, you have to pray. It's not technical, it's spiritual. They're spiritual.
I was really loving the story of the tamarind seed. And I was just thinking, probably in the moment you weren't thinking it to be such a significant source of joy. So I was also just thinking how when we associate, especially with sadhus who are very fixed up in their practice, we may not notice the effect it's having until later on, and then we say, wow, that person has really left an impact. Another thing I wanted to share, if I may, is there's actually a bhajan written of Gauridas Pandit's temple.
Oh.
It's called Gauridasa Mandire, and it's written by Gauridas Pandit, if I can read the English.
Yes, please.
And I can send a recording to you if you'd like to.
Definitely. We're going to do that bhajan now. And then we're all going to go together to Ambikokana.
Haribol!
What do you think?
The Lord of Lords, Sri Gaurachandra, along with Nityananda Prabhu, revels in the house of Gauridas Pandit in Ambika Kalna. He wears a beautiful red gunjamala that extends to his lotus feet. Brahman Lakshmi worship his lotus feet with great respect. The radiance of his body shines like molten gold, and his cloth is saffron like the rising sun. He desires the prema bhakti of Srimati Radhika, which is full of anurag. The son of Sachi, Sri Gaurachandra, is internally blissful. He playfully roams about with Nityananda Prabhu, the vanquisher of atheists. Both Nityananda and Gaurachandra are in the house of Gauridas, who hopes they will deliver all jivas.
Haribol! Hari, Hari! We'll try it again. Hari, Hari! And what's the tune?
Deva di Deva Gaurachandra Gauridasa Mandire Devadi Deva Gaura Chandra Goridasa Mandire Nityananda Sange Gaura Ambika Kate Vihare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Charanuruna Gunjahara Rita Kamale Jedare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Next.
Virinchi Seva Pada Padma Lakshmi Seva Sandare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Tapta Himamanga Kanti Prata Arunambare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. It's manifesting right before our eyes.
Radhika Nuraga Prema Bhakti Vancha Jekare.
Radhika Nuraga Baba Vancha Jekare.
Sachi Sutta Gaura Chandra Anandita Antare.
Sachi Sutta Gaura Chandra Anandita Antare.
Pasanda Kanda Nityananda Sange.
Let's stay on the A on Nityananda. Prashanda Kanda Nityananda Sange Range Vihare.
Nityananda Gaura
Nityananda Gaura Chandra Ki Jai.
Goridasa Mandire.
Nityananda Gaura Chandra Goridasa Mandire.
Goridasa Karata Asha Sarva Jiva Undare.
Goridasa Karata Asha Sarva Jiva. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Nityananda Gaura Chandra Gauri Das Ki Jai. What a great treasure Devavrata has brought to us, because he's always meditating on Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and chanting Hare Krishna. So he's able, that's the overflow that we're getting, because he had it in his heart, has it in his mind. And then when you have the association that it comes out, now it's washed through, and now it's a thing. This is our new bhajan. It's just revealed. We were waiting for it for a long time, right? Everyone was sitting in their house and when is there going to be a new bhajan? Admit it. Yeah, I know. There it is. There you have it. Thank you, David. Thank you. Yogadish, who has taken the path of devotional service very seriously, and that steadiness that Krishna is looking for in a devotee, this is your trademark. Show up for everything and staunchly administer the process so that other people can take advantage of it. Japa Jolt, Shastra Jam. Where else? That's Shloka, Shastra Jam. Oh, Shloka Mandala. What's it called? Shastra Mandala. Shastra Jam. I had it right. Cleaning kitchen. What else? It's all coming out now. You can't hide. Huh? Book distribution. Yes. So, thank you very much for, as a movement happening amongst the youth. We were waiting for it. Somehow the generation was there for a little while and everyone said, oh, it won't happen because they only like kirtan and fancy shirts. But no anything else. But you and all the youth here and other places as well is starting a new revolution of those who are young and determined and also taking the path of devotional service to other people. So there's great hope for the world because of this, and this is one of the symptoms of it's evidence of the sprouting of devotional service. So thank you very much, Yogadish. He's so serious.
Hare Krishna. I think all the youth and myself would agree that it's only a result of your association and mercy. So thank you. I think I had this thought when you were reading the purport to 1.8.40. In this world, we have different relations. We have spouses, there's parents and children, there's friendships. And in these relations, we might have nicknames for one another. I know my parents had a nickname for me.
Yeah, what is it?
They'd call me Yashu.
Yashu, okay.
So when I hear that name from them, it has a certain meaning because there is that relationship I have with them. But sometimes when other people say it, I might respond to it. I recognize like, oh, this is a name that I'm referred to as. But since the relationship is not there, it hits a little different. And so I thought this during when you were reading 1.8.40, because in the purport, the verse had the word Madhav in it. And so when I think Madhav, I just think, okay, this is the name of Krishna. Since I don't really have a strong relationship with Krishna. But then in the purport, we had Sanatana Goswāmī give like 3-4 different meanings of why that name was used, why it's relevant, why specifically Madhav as opposed to Krishna or any other name. And so I was thinking we're very lucky that we have people like Sanatana Goswāmī who can give these deeper meanings that make Krishna more personal to us, because we can't really do it on our own. And so there's a lot that goes into a name, like you were saying before. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you look up on the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, please, and put up fourth chapter, Adi Lila, text number 34, and go to the penultimate purport in 7 seconds or less. Wow. Keep going. Yeah. Penultimate means second to last. Okay, go back. Maybe there isn't enough to be second to last. 434, this is right, Adi Lila. Go back up. Okay, stop. There. Incarnations of the Supreme Personality of God appear in all the species of life, although this is inconceivable to the human brain. The Lord's pastimes are differentiated according to the appreciating capacity of the different types of bodies of the living entities. The Supreme Lord bestows the most merciful benediction upon human society when He appears in His human form. It is then that humanity gets the opportunity to engage in different kinds of eternal service to the Lord. Special natural appreciation of the descriptions of a particular pastime of Godhead indicates the constitutional position of a living entity. Adoration, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 5 primary relationships with Krishna. The highest perfectional stage of the conjugal relationship, enriched by many sentiments, gives the maximum relishable mellow to the devotee. There is a special natural appreciation, SNA, for each devotee. And in the process of hearing, Evamvrata swapriya namakirtya jatanurago jitachuta uchar, asatyato rautiti roti gayati unmadavan rititi lokapayaha, is indicated in this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, which says that as one continues to chant Hare Krishna, one will develop a specific inkling and appreciation for a particular name or form of the Lord. And every relationship, the unlimited living entities, is unique. There's not one that's the same as another. Krishna's unlimited. Brahma says that in his prayers. So the process, as Bhakti Tim mentioned this morning, one may still have a worldly side, but if you continue, then the force of devotional service is so powerful that we'll be dragged. Despite the fact that we may feel unwilling, we have this conundrum. There's a dichotomy. There's part of us that understands Krishna's the ultimate goal of life. The other part says, no, thank you. I'd rather stay here. The other day we were at the Gurukula at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, and we told the kids, Nirkul and I were doing a little song and dance program to entertain the kids. They gave us a whole hour. And I told them there was a way they could transfer immediately to Goloka Vrindavan. And I said, who wants to go? And everyone raised their hand except one kid. And I said, what? And he goes, well, not right now. But even if we have that hesitancy, we'll be overwhelmed because reality is all attractive. Krishna is reality. And he loves us so strongly that we won't be able to resist. He'll pull us. He can't resist the love of the devotee. And if we have even the smallest gesture towards him, make the smallest gesture towards him out of simple devotion, then Krishna will help us in every single way. And we'll come to realize that Krishna cares about us individually, us personally, each one of us. And it's not just in a general sense that, oh, God loves everybody, God is love, etc. But we actually have a specific, unique relationship with Krishna, and that special, natural, it's already there, appreciation, sanitya nitya sambandha prakritischa paraivasa, of the description of the particular pastime of Godhead. So watch out, because it's going to happen to you. If you keep hanging around, or even if you don't, then there will be a way in which the name of Krishna or the pastimes of Krishna will grab you, each individual here, in a particular way. And that's the goal of life, is to come to that point, and that's what this process brings. Thank you. Now we have, yes, Ritvik, and then...
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a wonderful class today. So I was just remembering a movie is called Pay It Forward, where the teacher actually gives an assignment to the student to how you can do good. Then the student comes up like, okay, I will help 3 people every day, and I will ask the other to help 3 more people, and that forms a chain reaction. That's the plot of the movie. So I was just remembering that, like, whatever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, like what he has started is this kind of chain reaction, which we are seeing it now. I just thought of sharing that point.
Yes, thank you. It's highly consequential to pay it to people. Ritvik, do you want to make a comment, ask a question?
I have a reflection. So at the end of the purport of the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.15.2, you talked about Krishna's tree, and then a little before that, you're talking about how Lord Chaitanya danced under the tamarind tree that Gauridas Prabhu had made. This kind of reminded me of when I went to Vrindavan and I went to Vamshivat, and also another part in the bottom you said, the flute sound is preserved in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So when I went to Vamshivat, there's this big banyan tree in front of like 5 different temples, and supposedly you can hear Krishna's flute going on inside, but you need to have really high concentration. I was only able to hear it for like one time, around 10 seconds, but it was extremely beautiful. Like beyond, whenever you hear a video or any type of sound, you don't hear the perfect sound, but you just have to chant Hare Krishna, put your ear to the tree, and think solely of Krishna, and the flute sound would come to you.
Okay, now you have to take that same sound vibration and give it to at least 3 people. Hare Krishna. Okay? Oh, Abhai's here. Well, let's welcome Abhai back, because that's it? It's Abhai. Give me a break. One more. Here. 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 Thanks for coming back. It's hard to get any bhav when you're not here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was wondering, before we get to the point of having a Swapriya Nam in that verse, what do we do? Because I've heard that the material designations that we already have some sort of preference when we're consuming like the Leelas and stuff like that and hearing different names of Krishna, but that's not like sthayi yet. So is it okay to focus on those?
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and following his mood, Srila Prabhupada had indicated that we should hear the various pastimes of Krishna, whatever relationship they're describing, incidentally, as we go through all of the books, and not specialize in one of those until it's a natural attraction. In other words, we don't aim at a particular rasa and say, oh, I'd like to be in Madhura Ras, and therefore I'm going to hear over and over again the Madhura Ras. And I don't have time for Bhagavad Gita or Sri Upanishad. Prabhupada had indicated at a particular time in history when somebody had that idea and then formed a club to do such things. It was right after the Chaitanya Charitamrita came out, and they said, oh, look at these sections. We'll only concentrate here and on nothing else, because that way we'll engineer our relationship. And Prabhupada was, what's the word? No, I'm saying what was Prabhupada's mood? Vehement. I'll put vehement. Livid is still... He was vehement about us not doing that. However, he did say to certain people, like one of his disciples, Tredas Prabhu, he said, you should read Krishna book, memorize Krishna book. He said to other people, you should specialize in a particular book. But that was more on the side of, don't become so widespread in your reading that you try to read from here and there to have an edge, that you know something other people don't know. That's another thing that happens, because even Rūpa Goswāmī mentions it. Don't become a bookworm. And one of his followers, Tapana Mishra, had that. He was a very high-minded scholar, but he read too many books and he became confused. But besides that, there are ways in which devotees could go to Rasa Bihari Lal's, Hare Krishna, if you're listening. I'm just nothing against your shop. I like your Brahmin threads. That you try to read certain kinds of things in order to come out in lectures like, oh, I know more about this than anybody else. And I'm not saying that's always the motive, but we should be careful to assimilate what we have already and to incidentally read about various modes of worship of different devotees, For instance, we read about it very specifically in the month of Damodar, because that's a time in which we worship the relationship between Krishna and Yashoda, and we sing about it every day. Specialization should come quite naturally, natural attraction, and even then, under the guidance of one's mentors, to understand how one would do it properly, and it would not be demonstrative. As one thing that's also important is, as one's cultivating a specific taste, whatever it may be, it should come out naturally. Like Chanakya Pandit said, you shouldn't tell people how rich you are, just let them figure it out by the way you live. And in the same way, when you start developing a particular taste of any kind, don't tell people about it unless they're very intimate associates or your guru, and you want to discuss it to make sure you're properly aligned. As soon as you start blabbing about it, then you lose all your credit in that loving mood. In fact, it's mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you shouldn't reveal it even to your own mind, because the mind is such a entity that it might then pass it on to the false ego, and then you also diminish the exchange with Krishna. So in the aggregate, everything I'm saying goes towards, no, we shouldn't try to artificially, and I don't know if that's what you're asking, cultivate a specific idea about what our relationship with Krishna is by reading a specific section, but we should incidentally hear from all those places. We should assimilate everything we've been given, and then when we're ready, Krishna will reveal it. In fact, we were just reading in the 11th canto. Do you remember which verse number it is? The last part of the purport had a quote from the Mahabharata. Can you remember? 11 what? 11:338? If that's right, you're going to win something there, cool. Look at 11:338. I just read you one little verse quoted in the purport there. It's a good takeaway from this conversation. Am I even close to answering your question? I think that I may have gone off on some of their tangent.
I was reading through Prabhupāda. I was talking with Shastra Sarpada about this, how...
Aha. The plot thickens. Okay, go ahead.
In the purport, it mentions the verse where how you should... There are material feelings that you have, like anger and things like that, but if you can direct those towards Krishna in some way, just the fact of remembering Krishna, despite whatever material preferences that are there, that's still very beneficial. So I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit more on things like that, how because of your material position that you're in, like what age you are and things, you have a certain preference when you're looking into Krishna's Leelas, even though that's not spiritual.
Well, we do have that idea, yam krodha kama sahaja pranayadi bhiti vatsalya moha guru gaurava sevibhav sanchintya tasya sadrisham tanama preti govinamadi purusham. No, that's not the last two lines. This verse from Brahma Samhita says something like that, and kama dvesha dhya krodhat bayam snehad aikyam sodidam evacha nityam dado vidadato yanti tanmayatam hite. That verse also. There's a commentary on that verse about, even in that verse, where it's talking about how if you direct your anger and things like that. And we'll have to look that up, because there's a very specific commentary that kind of startled me when I read it. And it specifically, if I'm remembering correctly, and I hope Shastra Sar's looking it up right now, says that don't think that you can engage these things haphazardly. You have to be very careful. This verse is what I was looking for. Is it 38? Nirkul, you've won a brand new something. Okay. The living entity. Now you see how I get through my days, right? The living entity known as Jiva is not different from me, for he is my expansion. Thus the living entity is eternal, as am I, and always exists within me. But you should not artificially think, now I have seen the soul. Rather, I, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will bestow this benediction upon you when you are actually qualified. And so this idea of being more and more qualified is especially important. It's there in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as well. At the very end of Rūpa Goswāmī's presentation of Raganuga Bhakti, he talks, at the very end, he said, but of course it's all dependent on the mercy of Krishna. not a algorithm, well, Hare Krishna mantra is kind of an algorithm, but not our engineering that idea. And we can read together later that purport, because we don't have all day here. And I got to go, see? So, thank you very much, everybody, for all you're doing. Just know that you're in the upper percentile, because it's extremely rare to not only get a human body, but also to dedicate your life to pure devotional service. It's practically non-existent anywhere in the world, but we have a whole room full, a whole movement full of devotees who are dedicated to that by the sheer power of Srila Prabhupada's devotional enthusiasm to bring everybody into the same tent. So please take full advantage of it. Life is extremely short. It's like a zip line. You know what those are? You get on it, it goes like that. It's that fast. So in that time when you're going, wee, make sure that you chant and take care of everything you have to, because it comes to an end very quickly, and this is the rarest of opportunities. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sorry about that, Yashoda Vatsal. If you so desire, please empower us to work together with a clear goal to inundate the Bay Area with the transcendental vibration, and with great sense of accommodation, allow and induce, and then allow everyone to come into the association of the devotees, so that they'll feel happy by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and attain the goal of life. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer, in whole or in part, should make a goal for how many Bhagavad Gitas they're going to distribute individually, not based on everybody else doing it, but everybody should take a goal, and then grab the books and give them to everybody you meet, and ask them if they'd come join the Hare Krishna movement. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone, now did I say it? Everyone agrees with this. Please say Hare Krishna. Vanchakalptarishya kripasindhaveva patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nantakode vaishnavan ki jai gopremanande haribo. That was the warm-up act. Now we have the real thing. We have a presentation by our youthful devotees about Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Our next presentation is by a youth from Kaishora class of Vedic Academy. First of all, thank you, Maharaj, for such a nectarian class. I really liked the tamarind tree story. That was very sweet. And then also thankful to Devabrata Prabhu for bringing that new bhajan. That was very sweet too. So today's presentation is by Arna Singh, and she will be presenting from Gauranga Darshan's Prabhu's book, which is Bhakti Viveka.
Hare Krishna. Today I'll be presenting from Gauranga Darshan Das' book, Bhagavad Viveka, Chapter 13, Are Devotees Poor? Introduction. Poor people cannot be pure devotees, as they cannot afford to attend big gurukuls or achieve great education. And to become a pure devotee, you have to renounce everything. These are two common misconceptions people have in general. These are two common misconceptions people have in general. And have you ever thought that Krishna shows from his devotees' examples that he does not differentiate between man, woman, rich, wealthy, or children? As he says in Bhagavad Gita 4.11, in however way you surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. In this context, I will be talking about two stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. The first story is of Bali Maharaj. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 88, verses 8 to 10, King Yudhishthira asked Krishna why some of his devotees are in poverty. Krishna replied that when he wants to bestow mercy onto a special devotee, he deprives him of his wealth. When his family and friends abandon him, he tries to gain back his wealth to win them over. But Krishna makes them get frustrated, so he becomes disgusted with material activity and befriends my devotees. Krishna then says he bestows his grace upon him so he can be free from the bondage of material life and attain his eternal abode. This is similar to Bali Maharaj's story. King Bali, who was the king of all demons and the ruler of the three worlds, the upper planetary systems, earth, and the lower planetary system, he was very rich and a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. But he wanted to conquer everyone and everything in the entire universe. The demigods begged Lord Vishnu to take an avatar on earth, so he took the form of Vamandev, a dwarf Brahmin. He came and asked Bali Maharaj for 3 steps, and he agreed. Vamandev then grew to a gigantic form and took his first step, which covered the lower planetary systems to earth. His second step covered from earth to the upper planetary systems. With his third step, he didn't know where to put his foot, so Bali Maharaj offered his head. He then realized that Vamandev wasn't just some ordinary Brahmin. He was actually Lord Vishnu in disguise. He then fully surrendered unto him, and Vamandev accepted his surrender and devotion and crowned him king of the lower planetary systems and became his doorkeeper. The second story is of Sudama. Sudama was a poor but spiritually devoted Brahmin. One day, his wife asked him to go meet his dear friend Lord Kṛṣṇa in Dwarka. At her urging, Sudama agreed and asked if there was anything he could take as a humble offering. His wife and him had nothing, so she went to the neighboring Brahmins and asked and begged for 4 handfuls of flat rice. Sudama then set out towards Dwarka. And once he reached and entered Krishna's palace, Krishna embraced him with great love and washed his feet. Sudama was a bit ashamed to give him his offering, but Krishna accepted it joyfully, saying that it wouldn't only satisfy him, but it would satisfy the entire universe. When he was about to take another bite, Queen Rukmini gently intervened, saying that if he took another bite, she would be fully compelled to surrender unto Sudama out of affection and not refusal. Sudama then spent the night at Krishna's palace, feeling as though he'd entered the spiritual world. The next day, he set out towards home, and he was grateful and content towards Krishna's love and care, and not disappointed he had not received any wealth. From Sudama's story, we can conclude that ideal Brahmins focus on spiritual growth and educating others instead of enjoying material things. Devotees don't focus on material things as it cannot bring true satisfaction or fulfillment. When Krishna is pleased by sincere service, he always awards his devotees graciously. If one pleases Lord Krishna, he automatically receives Lakshmi's blessings too. But if one only wants Lakshmi or wealth, he won't receive her blessings. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 81, verse 16. Kwaham daritra papiyan, kwa Krishna Sriniketanaha, Brahma bandhur iti smaham, bahubhyam parirambitaha. Who am I? A sinful, poor, unqualified Brahmin. And who is Krishna? The Supreme Lord and an abode of all opulences. Still he has embraced me with his 2 arms. This shloka from Sudama's story explains how Krishna never differentiates between his rich and poor devotees. He only looks for the faith and devotion you have for him in your heart. Conclusion. The Lord may sometimes take away material wealth of his devotees, but he gives himself to them, and therefore he is called Akinchanavita, or the property of the material impoverished. What can be greater wealth than Krishna and his love? To conclude, Krishna's devotees are not poor. They are the richest people in the cosmos, as they possess the real and eternal wealth of love for Krishna. Lord Sri Krishna appeared in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this Kali Yuga to bestow upon humanity this real wealth of Krishna Prema and to make all of us spiritually rich. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Arna.
Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you, Arna. I guess you were deeply absorbed in these pastimes, so much so that it was like a flow of nectar was just coming out. You must have been just meditating on these because you just seamlessly recounted the pastimes as if you were seeing them in front of your face. Thank you. I liked also how you started with those offbeat statements as an introduction, and we started reading them and thinking, no, that's not right. And that caught our attention. And then you wrapped it up at the very end with the last slide. That made such a perfect end pieces to the way that you gave the Leela. And just, you had it right on the tip of your tongue, ready to go. It made for a very easy to listen to and enlightening discourse. So thank you very much for doing what you're doing. You definitely have a talent for it. Please do more. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Arna?
The class you mentioned is very close to my heart. When devotees came and met me in my college, I was very scared, to fully surrender to Krishna, because I always heard that Krishna will make you poor. And when I was reading Leelamrita, Prabhupada's Leelamrita also, Krishna made Srila Prabhupada very poor. Before he boarded Jaladuta, he just had only 40 rupees. So, but eventually Krishna, gave so much wealth to Srila Prabhupada, and it was stated that Srila Prabhupada was one of the most opulent NRIs. So eventually Krishna will bless you with devotion and also opulence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Hare Krishna, Arna. So when I was your age, right, I could not even think of standing there, leave alone speaking. So excellent job, very brave, very courageous, and well done. And what was unique about your presentation was, you didn't read through the slides, like you remembered like a lot of stuff. So that was very good. So keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more reflections or questions? If not, thank you. Thank you all for attending. And Arna is a very sincere student of Vedic Academy, and she's also serves a lot of times, like she has made cookies and she has helped with chopping for the festivals. Yeah, she made baklava as well. And her mom hosts a Bhakti Vriksha at her house, so they're always serving the devotees. So thank you. Thank you. I think next we have some announcements from Bhakti community.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I have a quiz time today. Give me an answer to this question. In terms of climbing up ladders, What is Bhakti Yoga called? Something around climbing ladders or steps. What is Bhakti Yoga called? Elevator. Who said that? 100 marks. Shraddha Mataji, of course. Bhakti Yoga is an elevator process, is a fast process. And Bhakti community is an escalator to that elevator process. So by that, what I mean? So just imagine you are in an airport or in a shopping mall and you have to reach an elevator. You can walk all the way to the elevator or you can take the escalator, which helps you walk a little bit faster and go faster. So when you give books to people on the road or any friends that you meet, great job, good job. But to bring them to Bhakti Yoga, to bring them to understand, it will be very easy for them if you take them to the escalator where they find a devotee and that they can walk along with the devotee to the elevator and then join the ladder of the Bhakti Yoga. So if in a shopping mall, if you go, you have an escalator and then for some time you just have to walk. And those people who get the book, they'll walk, they'll shop around, they'll go around the mall and they'll forget about their goal where they really wanted to go. So if we give them books, please connect them to the escalator process, which is Bhakti Yoga. Connect them to a devotee who will help them to understand that book, to hold their hand and take them to the elevator together along with them and not leave them alone after you've given the book. So it's very important. Like when you think about your own family, yes, you give them book, but you just don't stop at that. You actually connect them to somebody, or you ask them to join your class, or you force them almost to join with you. That's how we have to think of everybody we give books to. They are our family. They need our compassion. If we don't call them, somebody else will call them. They'll go somewhere else and they'll do something else, and it's not going to be Bhakti Yoga. So let's please consider inviting everybody you meet today, in future, and connect them to a devotee via Bhakti community. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Any book announcements today? Yogadish, do you know anything about what's happening?
What's happening is we have a worldwide goal of distributing 4.7 million Bhagavad Gitas. And we'd like to make up at least half of that here at ISV, if you don't mind. So make some clear sankalpa about distributing a Bhagavad Gita or more, something more than 0, not less than 1. And be prolific if you like to, and expand the idea, distribute as many as possible, as it all goes towards the full contribution to the ultimate goal. And Madhuri Saki, do you have anything more specific? Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. From the Weekend Warriors group, Satya Sankalpa Prabhu very consistently every week posts different spots that we have for the weekend. I can read out some of the spots that we have this weekend. There's San Jose Holiday Lights Festival from 5 p.m. onwards. There's the Holiday Bazaar in Mountain View from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. There's the Pleasant Hill Light Up the Night Festival from 5 p.m. onwards. You could also go to the SF Ferry building, the farmers market there, Santa Cruz downtown, or any Indian stores or restaurants. So if you have any questions on these, you can reach out to me. I can help connect you to the right person and make sure you have somewhere to go and to give books to everyone. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Grain ceremony. Hare Krishna. We need a bhajan, please.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
It's fine.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Do I keep going?
Savana bhavatu savana bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinam aditam astu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Swastino Govinda Swastino Chutananto Swastino Vasudevo Vishnu Dharatu Swasino Narayano Naro Vai Swasina Padmanabha Purushottam Dharatu Swasino Vishwakshmena Vishveshwaraha Swasino Hrishikesho Harer Dharatu Swasino Vayanatayu Harihi Swasino Ananjana Suto Hanur Bhagavatu Dharatu Swasti Swasti Sumangalai Kesho Mahan Shri Krishna Sakchit Anandaganaha Sarveshwareshwaro Dharatu. Om Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, Navadeep Chandra's fired up and everyone looks great. And Sevangi, today is your first grain ceremony that you'll remember later when you see the pictures and hear everyone talk about how it went. So far, it's going great. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this morning. Please pour forth from your heart blessings for Sevangi and her success in this lifetime of attaining pure devotional service. To bring auspicity to this event, we're going to chant Purushottam Yoga, in which Krishna says, Aham Vaishva Daro Bhutva, which is, I am the digestive force within the body. And today we're celebrating his presence there by giving Sevangi her first grains, which is Mahaprasadam, in the supreme food of all foods, which is sweet rice. Hare Krishna. Purushottam Yoga, chapter 15, the yoga of the Supreme Person. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Urdvamulam Madashakam Ashvatam Prahur Avyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Saveda Ved Adashchokam Prashvitastasya Shaka Guna Pravrida Vishaya Pravala Adashya Mulan Anusantatani Paramanupantini Manushya Loke Narupamasye Hatatopalabhyate Namto Nachadir Nacha Sampratishta Ashvataminam Suprabhuta Mulam Asanga Shastrena Jitena Chitra Tapadam Tad Parimargitavyam Yasmin gatana nivratanti bhuya Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye Yata praviti prashrita purani Imana moha jita sangha dosha Adhyatma nitya vinivitya kama Tvanveva mukta sukha dukha samjhe Kachantya mura paramavyayamta Natad vasayate suryo Na shashanko na pavakaha Yagyatva nivartante Taddama paramam mama Mamai vamsho jiva loke Jiva bhuta sanatanaha Anakshastani indriyani Prakriti sani karshati Shariram yanavapnoti Yakshat vikramati shvaraha Grihitvaitani samyati Vayu gandhani vashaya Shotram chakshus parshanam cha Rasanam granameda cha Atishtaya manashayam Vishayanupasevate Ukramantam stitam vapi Unjanam va punanvitam Vimudhananupashyanti Pashyanti jnana chakshusha Yatanto yoginashchaina Pashyantyatmanyavastitam Yatanto pyakritatmano Nainam pashyanta chetasaha Yaraditya gatam tejo Jagad vasayate kilam Yaschandramasi yachchagnau Tat tejo vitimamakam Dhamma vishya chabhutani Dharayam yahamojata Ushnami chausadi sarva Soho bhutva rasatmakaha Aham vaishvanaro bhutva Praninam deham ashritaha Pranapana samayukta Pachamyanam chaturvidam Sarvasya cham ridi sanidishto Mataksmitir jnanam apohanam cha Vedaischa sarve ahameva vedyo Vedanta kripeda videva chaham Gadhima purusha loke Sharaschakshara eva cha Shara sarvani bhutani Kutasto shara uchate Utama purushastvanya Paramatme tudarita Yo lokatrayamadisha Hiparta Ishvara Yasmat sharamatitoham Akshara pichotama Atosmi loke vedecha Patita purushottama Yo mameva masambudho Janati purushottamam Sasarva vidbhajati vam Sarva bhavena bharata Iti kuyatamam shastram Idam uktam mayanaka Etad buddha buddhiman syat Krita kritascha bharata Om Tat Sariti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Shupanisatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Purushottam Yoga Nama Panchadasho Dhyayaha Hari Om
Hare Krishna, Hare
And now,
Krishna.
Sevangi, please come take your first reign.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So is this well-known sweetness attracts sweetness. And because Sevangi is so sweet, I think she drank half of that. No problem at all. Well done, Sevangi. Now we give to a more intellectual and telling test. Last wasn't a test, but we interpreted something. Here before you, Sevangi, we have placed huge stacks of cash. Gold, jewels, credit cards, kartals, and books. And she's chosen the books. Yeah, that's no question. Yeah, Bhagavad Gita specifically. We'll give her one more shot. Go ahead. Again, Bhagavad Gita right to her. Haribol! Thank you for being so straightforward and drinking the sweet rice and taking the book. Some people hesitate. We appreciate it. So we can see from this, highly scientific, and she's going back for it, that she'll be inclined, as is her family, towards hearing the Shastra, teaching the Shastra. She'll become a scholar of Bhagavad Gita, and she'll be outspoken in the matter of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness as passed down through the disciplic succession. May she also become, and this may be her first book to distribute, a great book distributor here at ISV. Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Sri Panchatattva, Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Sri Lakshmana Shringadev, Sri Sri Prahlad Nrsinga, all the great acharyas, if you so desire, please bless Sevangi. She'll always be under the protection of pure devotees, the holy name, her exalted family, and may she be successful in all that she does in this life. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, including you, Navadip Chandra. Please say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I hereby declare this ceremony a complete success. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Way to go, Sevangi. You did good. Hare Krishna. He wants more books. Sharirat Vijajao Jodendriya Kahe Kaha jive pele vishaya sagare karma jedivayati lova moisudumati take jita kati satsankare Krishna bhagavato Gori pare Chaitanya Girirāj Mahārāj Govinde Sampapunya Sandrajan Visakonivitayate Prasade Sarvabhutana Mandirasya Vidayate Prasanna Cheta Suyasu Yunipaya Pratishtete Sayam Svaganda Vasavankara Sarchitaha Ekishta Bhavino Dasa Savamayan Jayemari Shitam Payushitam Bhavi Nitam Bhavi Videshata Sakti Matrena Bhoktajan Dhatakaram Charananda Veda Hiya Vattatra Naskara Hiya Vattaka Saptamanam Kristam Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasada Ki Gaura Premanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Thank you very much everyone. Hari Krishna Gaura Premanande Hari Bol